So let me start the presentation. Today's presentation is Bridging the Gaps in Your WMS. My name is John Schrieffer. I'm Marketing Communications Manager with Lucas Systems. Joining me today is Krishna Venkateswamy. He is Chief Technology Officer of Lucas. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. As it'll suggest, we're going to talk about some of the common gaps in WMS systems and how companies can fill those gaps to improve DC operations. I'm going to provide a very quick overview and then turn it over to Krishna to give a couple of excellent examples of how two companies in particular are using Lucas mobile work execution solutions to fill those gaps. And of course, we're going to take your questions. So first, let's look at the WMS landscape today. So he's listed here four common gaps or challenges that people have with WMS. The first category, process inefficiency, revolves around the ways in which picking and other processes are organized and executed on the DC floor. Many find that their WMS-directed picking processes aren't as efficient as they could be, or they're having some issues with receiving put away or other processes, replacement, or inbound or outbound processes in general. And we hear those types of challenges from people, whether they have a Tier 1 WMS or a home system, or if they're using the warehouse management model of an ERP system. It's a pretty common challenge today. We also hear from many people that say they're generally satisfied with the basic functionality of their WMS. Their business has changed, their WMS-directed processes have not been able to change with them. For example, more and more companies today are filling store replenishment orders as well as direct-to-consumer orders, which requires some changes in how they're addressing orders and how they're executing the process on the DC. And so if WMS isn't able to change to address those more complex workflows, that's another challenge. So flexibility, again, is another gap or challenge in WMS systems. Another major challenge we see with companies using old WMS systems in particular is that supervisors don't have the visibility to what's happening on a real-time basis on the DC floor. So again, visibility can be a challenge, especially this is more prevalent in companies that have a less robust WMS system. And the third item, obsolete technology. A lot of companies are operating a WMS that's 10 years or more older. So if the underlying technology may be obsolete and very kind of rigid and more difficult to change without some significant risk. So the usual responses to these WMS-based challenges are customize your existing WMS if you can, upgrade your WMS, or replace your WMS. And each of these options comes with some risks and challenges. But for companies that we talk to, they're taking another approach. Rather than changing or upgrading or customizing their WMS, they're looking at a different way to address the issues. I'm going to bring in Krishna to talk about some of those solutions.
Thanks. So as I said, the customers and the market in general are looking to optimize their processes. One general trend that we've seen is the need for many of the distribution centers to service customers directly, consumers directly. That has created this challenge for our customers. While many of our other customers, their end customers are also evolving, and so their business models continue to evolve. And the distribution centers have to adapt to their customers and adapt the processes to service their customers at a much higher level. So the challenges they have is in how they price and organize their work. For example, when they ship to consumers directly, they're shipping parcels, so they have to adhere to shipping schedules. The file of the orders have changed dramatically for many of our customers over the last 10 years. So they're trying to see how best to fulfill the orders for various profiles without having to change their distribution center layout, automation, or WMS systems. In addition to these process changes, Customers are also looking to see how they can implement technology that improves productivity, whether it is voice, scanning, RFID technologies that are helping their operators perform their job better. In category is the visibility and control. In other words, the tools that they are being offered through a WMS provider are good when they get started, but as time goes on, as the systems age, the needs of those operators on the floor in terms of getting visibility and control have changed, and the WMSs are having challenges to provide those capabilities, and those are expensive options coming from WMS. So customers come to distribution centers, come to companies to fill those gaps, if you will, right? And all goes back to flexibility, right? So what they're looking for is tools and solutions that can be flexible and adaptable as their process needs and technology needs change, right? So that's the core of what we're trying to fill with our solution in the market. What I'll do is I'll walk you through two examples. The first example here, in both of these examples, we highlight how we were able to fill the gap that the Tier 1 WMS system has left behind, and our customers had to adapt and come up with a solution to fill those gaps. The first one is an automated e-commerce distribution center for apparel. So this is a large apparel retailer and e-tailer that had a Tier 1 WMS in Manhattan, and they had a lot of automation and controls, starting with sortation systems, conveyors feeding the sortation systems, put-to-light and pick-to-light systems that were enabling some of the operations or process needs. They were feeding the product to the sortation systems and the pick-to-light systems from a static shelf area, a large static shelved area where the products are manually picked and fed to these systems. Challenge that, and you know, as many of you might know, the sortation systems are waived, and you'll have to fill the sortation system in a timely manner for it to be efficient. That was what that e-commerce distribution center had. The vision that they had prior to us implementing our product there was a cart picking solution for the manual pick area, again, a cart picking solution wherein WMS was tubing work to a cart, so the cart can be picked and fed. Totes on the cart, in other words, can be picked and fed to up to 4 sortation waves at a time. That's a solution that had. They were not satisfied with the solution prominently because they were dealing with significant number of totes that were trying to get conveyed to the sortation systems, hogging the conveyor. So the totes were not utilized efficiently. That is, the picking algorithm was cubing to the cart, but not to ensure that the totes were fully picked into. So more totes than required were being conveyed to the sortation system, hogging the conveyor system. Right? So that was a big challenge that they had. They wanted to make sure that they can reduce the number of totes that got conveyed and ensure that they're able to pick and fill the totes as much as they can. In addition to that, the static shelf area that they were picking from, the manual pick area, was very narrow. The aisles were very narrow between the shelves. It was challenging for them to get these carts passed by each other if you had multiple selectors or pickers working in the same aisle. So that was a big challenge for them because the to-cart algorithm did not factor the congestion issue within the aisles while putting together those carts. Coupled with all this, the e-commerce business is very lumpy, so there are peak seasons, as you will all know, Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving Day, and so on. When these peak seasons occur, the number of operators, pickers on the floor increased dramatically up to 10 times in this specific warehouse. So we had to bring 10 times more pickers specifically to service the manual pick area. So the congestion got multiplied 10 times, the number of totes that were conveying multiplied 10 times, and the operations were not able to cope with this increased volume demand, and the throughput actually reduced instead of increasing, and that was a big challenge for them. So what we did is we studied this problem. We also looked at product capabilities to see how we can fill these gaps without having to build a solution from scratch. Our product has most of these capabilities that we can use to fill the gaps. And here's how we fill these gaps and solve the problem for them. First, we took the manual pick area, the static shelf area, and cut that into smaller work zones. The reason why we did that is to ensure that we can keep pickers in a small work area while managing what they pick within each of those areas. So to maximize what they pick, instead of cubing to the cart, we allowed them to pick and fill to a tote, irrespective of how many totes they used to fill a sort wave. So we eliminated the cube algorithm. We came up with an intelligent way with which product provides to and pick to totes for all how many sort waves they have going at that time, and pick to fill a tote, reduce the number of totes that got conveyed on the conveyor. So we reduced the congestion on the conveyor. We also allowed for the pickers to move where the work was available. In other words, our system was intelligently telling them where they should go next, so they can fill the sort wave. So the work and the throughput was fluid through the warehouse. As we looked at the problem we wanted to implement, we also felt the voice technology was most suitable for the pickers to work in the manual pick area. So a combination of voice scanning and some tools graphical tools to allow for the work to be manipulated allowed this operation, the distribution centers, to reduce the number of totes for the same amount of orders, irrespective of how many orders they got at the peak. We were able to reduce the number of totes that got conveyed. We were able to reduce the congestion by carving out work and balancing work. We were able to increase the throughput through the warehouse without having them touch WMS, the systems, the pick-to-light systems, put-to-light systems. They did not have to make any change to any other system in order for us to bring this capability to them. This also helped bring new pickers during peak season operations with having to do a lot of onboarding and training. Right? So it significantly helped this operation. This example that I'm going to walk you through is consumer health products manufacturer and distributor in Europe. This specific manufacturer distributor was using SAP WM module. They also had a very highly automated distribution center. They had A-frames, conveyor systems, robotic arms feeding conveyor systems and A-frames, and also a pick-to-light area. They had a large manual pick area, much like I mentioned to you at the e-commerce distributor, where they were bringing all their new products. We had a significant number and was increasing into the manual pick area to distribute. Now, the distribution itself, the area that distribution center covered, also was increasing significantly. They were based outside London and were charged to distribute to all of Western Europe and moving into Eastern Europe as we were implementing the solution. That brought is a challenge to ensure that the orders were properly prioritized and the shipping schedules were adhered to, since most of these orders went through parcels, right? So we had to come up with a solution that addressed those challenges for them. What we came up with after studying their system and also looking at our product capabilities is to first, we, much like in the e-commerce distribution center, we looked at the operations to see whether we can optimally create a batch of work that we can give to pickers to go pick. Now, batching is an age-old technique. It's not something that we invented, but what we have done and what our product has is the ability to batch based on not location matching, that's the traditional way, or FIFO-based auto batching. What we have is a capability to dynamically batch based on priority of the orders that need to get shipped and also the least pick path for the pickers. So ensuring that throughput through that area of the distribution center could be increased by batching without having to, again, change the WMS in this case as well. In addition to that, we also provide them tools, especially a dashboard that comes with our product, to help manage priorities, help get visibility into the orders that we're getting shipped, and tools to allow for the operators on the floor to adjust priorities if they needed to of orders through this dashboard. After implementing this solution, what we were able to achieve, what the operations were able to achieve, the significant decrease in labor cost, meaning with the same amount of labor, they were able to now achieve much higher throughputs, much higher volumes, because they were servicing a larger area throughout Europe now, and an increased SKU count that they had planned to bring into the distribution center. The production went up significantly. Errors reduced. This particular customer was packing and manifesting the packs through SAP, so they're in essence doing 100% check. But they were finding a lot of pick errors prior to bringing our system into production. With our system into production now, they have significantly reduced the pick errors, so the rework that needed to be done at the pack stations have gone down significantly, helping the productivity increase again. Our tools have also helped visibility into real-time, meaning stocks in real time, by alerting the right operators and replenishers to go replenish shelves. We also have capabilities within our product to hold coming out of the A slot if the slot is empty, and the replenishment is done, and allow for the pickers to complete their orders without changing the WMS. So we were able to bring that capability into the solution as well. So again, implementing this on top of SAP WM, they didn't have to change the PWM, they didn't have to touch any of their other automation and control systems, and they were able to achieve much higher throughput and productivity gains by bridging the gap between what the WMS has provided and what was required on the floor.
Excellent. Thank you, Krishna. So we do have like I said, we're going to be taking questions now. So if you have a question, there's still time to enter it. We'll be taking, we've got about 3 or 4 questions that have come in already. If you have any more, please use the Q&A box to submit questions. So we got the first one. So let me phrase this. In the first example, you're talking cubing to the cart. Why cube to the tote? Would that address the problems?
Yes, I looked at the potential to cube to totes. Now, there's a lot of challenges in cubing to tote. These were apparels, so the dimensions of the products were not as accurate as you'd want. That's the first challenge we had, so we didn't want to cube to a tote and have the picker make decisions on the floor as to what to use a new tote or stuff the product into the tote that it was cubed into. So to avoid such confusions and having to have the pickers make decisions on the floor, we eliminated the ability to need to cube to tote and allowed for the pickers to make their decisions. Now, pickers were given clear instructions on what the objective was. They understood that they needed to maximize the totes to minimize congestion on the conveyors. given visibility, the pickers were able to effectively fill the doors.
Great. Second question has to do with the second example, the batching tools. So is the batching you're talking about, is that rule-based batching like in a WMS, for example?
It's a much sophisticated math or an algorithm that we did at Lucas. There's a lot of research that went into the algorithm, and the optimization techniques that we applied are unique and proprietary to Lucas. The dynamic work optimization, in a nutshell, not just look at prioritization rules, nor does it simply look at location sequencing to batch orders. Actually, in real time, work is either given to a picker or asked by a picker to do a process. The algorithm looks across the order pool and picks at batch orders that have least pick path with the highest priority that needs to get shipped. Those orders need to get shipped. So that algorithm is run very quickly. It's one of the unique capabilities that we brought with this algorithm, and that provides significantly lesser travel time than if you just did a straight line batching.
Great. Okay, this is a really good question. So suppose I implement the Lucas solution and then I change my WMS. What then?
So one of the components of our product is to interface with any kind of host system, and our customers have effectively leveraged that capability. What we do is we abstract the operational needs and the goal of the operations and build and configure that into our product, while adding very tight integration into the WMS. We loosely couple the interfacing with the WMS intentionally, so we don't have to be tied to the WMS. So if you did a WMS upgrade or one WMS to the other, you'd have any impact to the operators on the floor, not to our system, right? The objective is to minimize the risk. So if you try to change a system that is used by your operators every day, change management and the training is significant, and it disrupts your operation. But what I walked through today, those customers and many of our other customers have been able to isolate the operations from system changes and system upgrades, because the operators deal with one system irrespective of what the WMS does or does not do.
All right, we have two more questions. So again, if you have a question, feel free to type it in. We have two more left, and we might have time for one more beyond that. So this question: what kind of effort is involved on the WMS side when implementing a system like this?
More than not much, because the WMSs are already sending this kind of data to control systems, especially if you have automation, if you have a conveyor system and or a pick-to-light system. WMSs are already sending this data to those systems. We're leveraging the same data and applying all this functionality on top of that interface. So, say majority of the time, it's coming from a technology background. I would not say no change at all. Majority, or 90% of the time, there is no impact to the underlying WMS when you implement the solution.
Okay. And a related question to that: how long does it typically take to implement the Lucas?
So the typical time frame is anywhere from 90 to 120 calendar days from the time you engage with Lucas to implement a solution like the ones that I walked you through today. It depends again on our customers' ability to work with us to bring this solution to their operations. That's a typical time frame. What we've also found is that brought these solutions to the customers quickly, the customers are able to get return on investment on that investment within a 12 to 18 months time frame, which is significantly lower than if they'd gone and changed or upgraded or brought a new WMS.
Great. So we don't have any more questions. I'll give you one more chance and while waiting to see if any other questions, just want to people know that Lucas is going to be attending the MODEX trade show. Many people are familiar with that in Atlanta in April. We have 2 presentation panels, so we're going to be presenting with 4 different customers. So if you're going to MODEX, definitely look for us at the show and our presentation panels. So there are no more questions. So thank you very much, Krishna, and thank you, everyone. Actually, you have one more question. So the question has to do with velocity-based slotting in a WMS, which helps minimize travel time of the picker and improves efficiency. So why would you engage with Lucas if you have velocity-based slotting?
Yeah, so velocity-based slotting helps certainly. In fact, by doing what I described to you with the dynamic work optimization, we're actually able to feed that information to a velocity slotting tool to optimize the velocity slotting tool to bring those like products together so the pickers don't have to walk more than what they need to. Our tool actually can help feed the velocity slotting capability to improve the speed and efficiency with which you can apply the tool, right? To apply that velocity slotting capability. So it's not a replacement to velocity slotting. Our capabilities can work in conjunction and actually feed velocity slotting.
Great. Well, hopefully that answered your question and everybody else's questions. Again, if you have any follow-up, feel free to email me or to give us a call. And we will be holding more webinars in coming months, so watch your email for news about that. Thank you very much.